ለመማር ወደ ትምህርት ተቋም መሄድ ግድ አይደለም።
ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
ራሳችሁን ከኮሮና ቫይረስ ወረርሽኝ እየጠበቃችሁ በቤታችሁ ወይም በተመቻችሁ ቦታ
በኢንተርኔት አማካኝነት በኦንላይን ትምህርታችሁን መከታተል ይቻላል።
ካናዳ ከሚገኘው ኢንተርናሽናል ኤር ትራንስፖርት አሶሲዬሽን አያታና
ከእንግሊዙ ኢንስቲትዩት ኦፍ ኮመርሻል ማኔጅመንት ICM ጋር በመተባበር የሚሰጡ ትምህርቶችን ተከታትላችሁ በ6 ወር ጊዜ በዓለም አቀፍ ደረጃ ተቀባይነት ያለውን የስልጠና ማስረጃ ባለቤት መሆን ይቻላል።
ከኢትዮጵያ ሲቪል አቪዬሽን ባለስልጣን ሙሉ ዕውቅና ባገኘንባቸው የፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን እና የሆስተስ ስልጠናም በምዝገባ ላይ ነን።
ጥያቄና መልስ፣ የክፍል ስራዎች ብሎም ፈተና መፈተን ክፍል ውስጥ እንዳላችሁ አይነት
ልምድ ባላቸው መምህራን እየተማራችሁ
በኦንላይን ባላችሁበት ቦታ
አድራሻ ከ22 ማዞሪያ ወደ ሾላ ገበያ በሚወስደው መንገድ 150 ሜትር ገባ ብሎ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ
ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።
Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I think previously we have discussed about the general overview about the course. Yeah, we have tried to see what generally the course is all about, and we have said the course is divided into 6 chapters. So one by one, we try to move so as to at least notice important points of the course. So generally speaking, today we're going to start the first chapter, and today we're going to start the first chapter. The first chapter is about it is an introduction to what is international relation. Okay, what is an international relation in general, and particularly what are important steps that we should take into consideration when we are talking about international relation is the point of discussion for today. International relation is it is just not a new concept. It is not a new phenomena. It is not a thing that is just happened recently. It was a common trend, a common characteristics, or a common feature even 100 and 200 years ago even. So international relationship is you can simply define what international relationship is like this. International relation የምንለው ነገር በቀላሉ እንዲህ ብለን ዲፋይን ማድረግ እንችላለን። International relation is a relationship, or it is alliance, or it is a legal friendship among states. Okay, it is a legal relationship. I will tell you why I call it a legal relationship. Okay, it is a legal, okay, or it is a legal friendship. It is a legal alliance that is created between or among independent states. International relation ማለት ኢንዲፔንደንት በሆኑ ነፃ በሆኑ አገሮች መካከል የሚፈጠር ህጋዊ ግንኙነት ነው። Now, can you tell me the reason why I referred it is a legal relationship? It is not an ordinary relationship, okay? It is not an ordinary relationship, but it is a legal relationship. And can you tell me why I call it a legal relationship? Why it is called legal alliance, legal relationship? It is not ordinary relationship. So can you tell me the reason why I call it a legal relationship? ماشي? Yes? Brooke, you're Brooke?
I think those relationships are abided by laws or policies.
Okay, those relationships are abided by laws or policy. Okay, anybody? Any more idea? ሌላ ሰው ሀሳብ የሚሰጠን ሰው አለ። It says it is a legal relationship and it is not an ordinary relationship. As Brooke said, it's called a legal relationship for two main reasons. The first and the most important one is, as a result of any sign, any contractual agreement, there comes two main things. Okay, if it is a legal relationship, okay, if it is a legal relationship, we happen to see two important points. That is, each contracting parties, each signatory countries is going to have roles, duties, and responsibilities. Okay. Having a legal relationship at the end of the day provides two main things. That is, a right and a duty. It is indispensable. የማይነጣጠሉ ነገሮች ናቸው። ሁሉም ሀገሮች ለምሳሌ the relationship, this legal relationship can be a bilateral relationship. That means it is created by two countries. If the relationship is created by two countries, okay, then we call it is a bilateral relationship. By ማለት ሁለት ማለት ነው አይደል? And if the signatory countries are more than two, it's going to be what? Multilateral relationship. ብዙ ሀገሮች ሆኑ ከሁለት በላይ 3 4 10 20 30 ሊሆን ይችላል። So that's called multilateral relationship. So under these two kinds of relationship, it needs to be regulated by laws and policies. Otherwise, the very reason why we put it as a legal relationship is one of the party might be, okay, one of the wealthiest state, probably the one that has good resource might be acting as a superior and others might be inferior. ግልጽ ነው። እዚህ ጋር ሀብታም የሆነው ሀገር የተሻለ ሪሶርስ ያለው ሀገር ሌላኛውን ሀገር እንዲጎዳ ሊያደርግ ይችላል። ስለዚህ so as to give a balanced power, so as to provide, okay, a mutual interest, it needs to be regulated by policy, or you can say it is a mutual agreement, or you can say that it is a law. ይህ እንግዲህ የሀገሮች የጋራ ስምምነት በህግ አባይድድ መደረግ አለበት፣ በህግ መገዛት መቻል አለበት ማለት ነው። The reason is, as I told you earlier, it is just to make a co-balance. It is just to create a cohabitation. ተቻችለው እንዲኖሩ ማለት ነው። Okay? If you have remembered recently, some wealthiest states are acting overhead of some poor states. For example, you can remember that the history that happened in Africa, especially during the colonization period. When they colonized states, countries were not in a position to defend themselves. Therefore, these European and other countries emerged as superpower. And because of this, Africa was exploited its resource in terms of human resource, in terms of material resource, and most importantly, some important human rights were violated at that time. Therefore, when we are referring to international relation, it must be governed, it must be administered by a policy or a law, or signatory countries should have to have a mutual agreement. ሁለቱም የሚስማሙ ሀገሮች ወይም 10 ሊሆን ይችላሉ 50 ሊሆን ይችላሉ የጋራ ስምምነት ሊኖራቸው ይገባል ማለት ነው። So to sum up, ለማጠቃለል ያክል international relationships are created among states, among countries, and we're going to discuss why international relation becomes very much sensitive and important, but at the end of the day, this relationship is a legal alliance or a legal relationship. And let's just try to reason out Okay, let's just to try to reason out why international relationship is mandatory. Okay, let me ask you first of all, do you think that international relationships that much important, especially currently? በተለይ በዚህ ሰዓት አገሮች የራሳቸውን ሪሶርስ ዴቨሎፕ በሚያደርጉበት ጊዜ do you think that international relationship is that much critical or crucial? ሀገሮች ይህን ያክል ግንኙነት ያስፈልጋቸዋል ብላችሁ ታስባላችሁ? And why?
Yeah, diplomacy is
Would do you think that hello?
ይሰማኛል።
እሺ
ማለት አንድ አገር በሌላው ላይ በሌላው ሀገር ዲፔንድ ያደርጋል ለሰርቫይቫሉ ማለት ነው። ዲፕሎማቲክ ሪሌሽንስ ያስፈልጋል ቢትዊን ካንትሪስ ማለት ነው ለሰርቫይቫል። ስለዚህ ኢንተርናሽናል ሪሌሽንስ በጣም አስፈላጊ ነው ብዬ አስባለሁ። ማለት ሪሶርስ ሼር ያደርጋሉ፣ አይዲዮሎጂ ሼር ያደርጋሉ።
Okay.
ይሄ ነው ብዬ አስባለሁ።
Very good. Yes, international relationship is currently, especially states are not isolated. Despite states do have accumulated wealth, enough human resource, enough capital, they really need to have a relationship internationally. Life is not easy in isolated mood currently, especially in the 21st century. I think this must be shared. We usually share good and bad things together, especially things or economies are highly interconnected these days. The states become interdependent. Okay, one state, even if they do have their own necessary resources, they should have to share with others. So the followings are the main reasons why state needs alliance. የምናገራቸው ነገሮች አገሮች ግንኙነቶችን የሚፈልጉባቸው ኢምፖርታንት ፖይንቶች ናቸው። These are the followings are why countries are really in need or in search for partnership. The first and the most important reason why states are seeking for relationship is for economic interest. Economically speaking, states are not alone. They should have to share their resources. Okay? With regard to economic interest, you might ask me questions like this. Economic interest ላይ አንድ አይነት ጥያቄ ልትጠይቁ ትችላላችሁ። ለምሳሌ let's say that some states are wealthy enough. Okay? They are wealthy enough and they don't need small items probably. But still, the very wealthiest states, like the first world countries in the world, the first world states are still in search for partnership. This is just with economic perspective, okay? You should see it with economic perspective. And they are highly in need of relationship. And can you tell me the reason? በጣም በለጸጉ የሚባሉ በጣም አደጉ የሚባሉ ሀገሮች they really need relationship with the third world countries. ከሶስተኛው ዓለም ሀገሮች ጋር ጓደኝነት ይፈልጋሉ። The relationship is based on economy. You should see it with economic perspective only. And can you tell me the reason why? በቂ ገንዘብ፣ በቂ ሀብት፣ በቂ ሪሶርስ እያላቸው በጣም ድሃ ከሚባሉ ሀገሮች ጋር ግንኙነት ለምን ይፈልጋሉ? የበለጸጉ ሀገሮች Okay, this is the reason, okay? Even though they do have all the necessary things, they don't want to spend their resource on agricultural outputs. For example, if you see some European countries, they really exert their pressure, they exert their resources on manufacturing and some electronics outputs. Instead of spending their time on agricultural outputs, it is better for their economy to spend their time and energy on manufacturing goods. So once they produce these manufacturing items, they sell it to the international market, and they are going to be the sole export for different poor states. Okay, and then what these poor states are going to do? እነዚህ poor states የምንላቸው ደግሞ ምንድነው ፕሮዲውስ የሚያደርጉ? For example, let's just look what Ethiopians are usually exporting. ምንድነው ኤክስፖርት የምናደርገው? What are our exporting items? Ethiopia and similar states are usually export agricultural outputs. Yeah, these agricultural outputs are the main, even the backbone for their economy. The economy backbone የሆነው agricultural outputs. So ለአሜሪካ እና ለአውሮፓ ሀገራቶች agriculture ላይ ኢኮኖሚያቸውን ቤዝ ማድረግ it is not beneficiary. It's not because they can't ስለማይችሉ ሳይሆን it is not meaningful for them. ጠቃሚ አይደለም፣ የሚበጅ አይደለም. Therefore, they put their outputs are manufacturing items, and these manufacturing items simply sold at the very high or expensive dollar. በጣም ኤክስፔንሲቭ በሆነ ገንዘብ ለውጭ ማርኬት ይሰጣሉ ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ it is imbalance. In fact, we are exporting agricultural outputs and importing manufacturing items. Export የምናደርገው agricultural outputs ነው። Import የምናደርገው ደግሞ manufacturing ነው። It creates imbalance, but it is meaningful for wealthy states. ስለዚህ wealthy የሆኑ ስቴቶች ከደሃ ሀገራት ጋራ እንደዚህ አይነት ሪሌሽንሺፕ የሚፈልጉት ለምንድን ነው? It is just to get these cheap items, these cheap agricultural outputs. እነዚህ አሁን የጠቀስኩላችሁ cheap የሆኑ agricultural outputsን ለማግኘት ነው ከደሃ ሀገሮች ጋራ ሪሌሽንሺፕ የሚፈጥሩት ማለት ነው። So economically speaking, states become interdependent. We need manufacturing goods from abroad. ከውጪ manufacturing የሆኑ ነገሮችን እንፈልጋለን, and we export agricultural outputs. That is our surplus. That is what we can produce. Produce የምናደርገው እንደዚህ አይነት አይተሞችን ስለሆነ ማለት ነው። This is the first reason why states needs international relationship. Okay, international relationship አንደኛው ምክንያት economic interest ነው ማለት ነው። Economy is one of the reasons. Economic interest is one, and we can say the very fundamental reason for international relationship. And the second reason is ሁለተኛው ምክንያት ደግሞ the second and the most important reason for having international relationship globally is it is for cultural need. Life is not going to be simple alone. We should share our culture to elsewhere, and we should also invite some other cultures to be introduced into our state. So cultural variation, cultural relationship is the next most important factor why states needs partnership. Okay, ሁለተኛው reason cultural affectionate እንዲፈጠር. We need acculturalization. Culture must be, exchange in terms of tourism. በዚህ ሰዓት tourism is one of economic incentive for most of the states. ለብዙ ሀገሮች economic incentive የሚሰጥ ነገር ነው. Therefore, cultural variation is the sole or the foundation for international relationship. That's why most of the time people travel the long distance to oversee, to notice other people's culture. So cultural exchange የልምድ ልውውጥ እያሉ with this culture you can exchange resources, intellectual properties, crafts and so on. ሰው ባህሉን ሲለዋወጥ ቋንቋውን አኗኗሩን የትምህርት ደረጃቸውን and so on. These all things are exchange items. Therefore, the second most important, okay, the second most important reason for international relationship is social affiliation. You can say ማህበራዊ ግንኙነት ለመፍጠር። Okay, thirdly, በሶስተኛ ደረጃ thirdly, we can have international relation for another basic reason, that is political interference. Okay, for political relationship, for political alliance, states are usually in search for relationship, in search for alliance. What is political relationship? Okay, even these days, currently, the new Prime Minister Dr. Abiy is trying to show his good gesture to the world, in which many states used to invite him, and that is how international relationship is created. በቅርቡ ዶክተር አብይ የተመረጡ ሰሞን በጣም የተለያዩ ሀገሮች እየሄዱ ያላቸውን ጥሩ አመራር ያላቸውን ጥሩ ኤክስፒሪየንስ በብዙ ሀገራቶች እየዞሩ ሼር ሲያደርጉ ነበር። and with that state is going to create their good favor, ያለውን good favor ለዓለም እያሳየ ነው ማለት ነው። Besides this political relationship is highly influenced so as to keep peace and order. ሰላምና መረጋጋት እንዲኖር ይህ political relationship is mandatory. Even states that was at war once upon a time was having a peaceful relationship with regard to Ethiopia, like Somalia, like Eritrea. Yeah, it is because of the diplomatic relations that states will have. They can share some of their basic resources. At the beginning, when Ethiopia and Eritrea created a peaceful relationship, they were on the movement to share one of Eritrean port. ታስታውሱ ከነበረ ኢትዮጵያና ኤርትራ ሰላም በፈጠሩበት የመጀመሪያ 2 ወራቶች ትልቁ አጀንዳ የነበረው የጋራውን ሪሶርስ በጋራ ለመጠቀም ነበር አይደል? They were trying to use a common property together. So having good diplomatic relationship is not enough for only political interest, but for economical interests too. ሀገሮች ጥሩ የሆነ ግንኙነት በሚኖራቸው ጊዜ ፖለቲካል ሪሌሽንሺፕ ብቻ ሳይሆን የሚፈጥሩት ሶሻል ኤንድ ኢኮኖሚክ ሪሌሽን ነው ማለት ነው። Am I clear? Is that clear? And what if states are isolated? What if countries are not interested to create good partnership? ምን ይፈጠራል? ሀገሮች ብቻቸውን ቢሆኑ if they have enough resource, if they have limited resource, then why would they search for partnership? ሀገሮች ለብቻቸው ቢሆኑ ምንም የሚፈጠር ነገር አለ ይሄን ያክል? ለምሳሌ take a look at what happened to Eritrea few months ago. ኤርትራ ለባለፉት ከ10 በላይ አመት ከዓለም ከተለያዩ ኢንተርናሽናል ሪሌሽንሺፖች በሙሉ ተገላ ነበር። And what was the consequence of it? What was the consequence? We can determine the consequence. Eritrea, young people were forced to leave the states in search for job. Many young people were traveled even on foot so as to get better land. በጣም ብዙ የኤርትራ ወጣቶች ረጅም መንገዶችን እያቋረጡ በጣም ለተለያየ አደጋ ሲጋለጡ ነው ስናየ ነበር። People strive to escape from authoritarian government, and many of its citizenship were facing hardship. And because the states were isolated, the country was suffering from imports. ማንም ከዛች ሀገር ጋራ economic relationship ስለሌለው there is no import and that country could not able to fill all the needs of the society. Society የሚፈልገውን ሁሉንም አይነት need ደግሞ አንድ ሀገር ማሟላት ስለማይቻል their economy was lower and at the same time their international figure was not popular. Popular ያልሆነ ያልታወቀ እንደውም በመጥፎ የታወቀች ሀገር ለመሆን በቅታለች ማለት ነው። So what I just try to say under this is international relationship for states is crucial. It is very, very important for political interest, for social interest, for cultural variation, above all for political alliance. Okay? Any question? If it is clear to you, we're going to also see another basic concept with regard to the concept of nationalism, nation, and states. You know, from the course outline that I used to share last time, the first point was the concept of nationalism, nation, and states. So nationalism is, the most influential force in international affairs. It has caused the outbreak of revolution and war across the globe. It is noted as a factor for the collapse of age-old empires and powerful, competent states were reshaped because of the feeling of nationalism. Nationalism, it is just a kind of feeling whereby states are, having in a common interest. At the end of the 18th century, if you have referred your history lesson, states can be, radically transformed. States were transformed, and states was combined with a nation forming, and nation at the end of the day is built on the basis of state. Nationalism and state የምንለው ነገር ብዙ ጊዜ we are using it interchangeably. Okay, we most of the time use it interchangeably, but there exists some difference. Nationalism, nation, and state. Is there anybody who can tell me the difference among these? What is nationalism? When you see the national flag of Ethiopia, what do you feel? When you hear the national anthem of Ethiopia, what do you feel? Okay? What is nationalism? Nationalism is just a feeling, okay? It is just a feeling that you feel for something, most of the time for your state. ናሽናሊዝም የምንለው ነገር ለሀገራችን፣ ለባንዲራችን፣ ለመሬታችን የሚሰማን ስሜት ነው። ናሽናሊዝም it is a feeling that really brings us into war. እስከ ጦርነት ድረስ የሚያደርስ ፊሊንግ ነው። ኦኬ፣ ራስን እስከ መስዋዕትነት ድረስ የሚያደርስ ፊሊንግ ነው። it is a feeling, it is an emotional feeling that you feel in order to express the love that you have for your state, for your country. And a state is something different. Okay, state is something different. If nationalism is like that, nationalism የምንለው ነገር, if it is the feeling that you feel inside, it is not something tangible that you can touch, it's not something that you smell, but you just feel it in your heart. በውስጣችን የሚሰማን feeling ነው ማለት ነው። Therefore, in order to have the feeling of nationalism, first of all, we should have to have what? Nation. የሀገር ፍቅር እንዲኖር መጀመሪያ ሀገር የሚባል ነገር መኖር አለበት አይደል? There must be nation. So what is nation for you? Brooke?
I think it's a political organized body under the control of one government.
It is a politically organized entity under
Body
government.
of people under a single government.
Under a single government. Okay. Before we define nation, let's say something about state. State, there are four fundamental things that are essential to establish a state. Yeah, in our previous civics lesson or from our history courses, we have some understanding, we have some awareness about how a state is created. And mainly, there must be four important ingredients. አራት መሰረታዊ ingredients አሉ in order to have, okay, in order to have what? State. Can you mention these four things? Yeah?
Maybe people, land.
Yes?
People.
Okay, let me list them all. The first and the most important one is there must be a territory. There must be a territory. That territory must be kept and recognized. There must be a territory or a land, and that land must be kept or regulated or acknowledged or recognized. የተከለለ የተጠበቀ ኢንተርናሽናል ሪኮግኒሽን ወይም እውቅና ማለት ነው። እውቅና የተሰጠው ላንድ መጀመሪያ ደረጃ ያስፈልጋል ማለት ነው። That is what we mean by, okay, that is what we mean by territory. Territory ያስፈልጋል፣ መሬት ያስፈልጋል። Okay, the first and the most important one is land. The second is, okay, having a land is not enough, but it must be accompanied with people, population. ሁለተኛው ደግሞ ስቴት እንዲኖር አገር እንዲኖር የሚያደርገው ነገር ምንድነው? It is population. People either with similar culture or different culture. አንዳንድ ጊዜ ሞኖ ካልቸር ሊሆን ይችላል። አንድ ወጥ ብቻ ባህል ሊኖር ይችላል። Sometimes probably the culture might be various. የተለያየ culture ሊኖር ይችላል. Sometimes there might be a single religion. አንድ ሃይማኖት ብቻ ሊኖር ይችላል እዛ ሀገር። Take a look at Arab states, for example. አንዳንድ አረብ ሀገሮችን ተመልከቱ ለምሳሌ፣ ወይም አንዳንድ የክርስቲያን ሀገሮችን ተመልከቱ። So religion, culture, language might be some states might have large number of population, and some states will have lower number of population. But whatever the size of the population is, people or population is mandatory. የመጀመሪያው እንዳልኳችሁ መሬት ያስፈልጋል። ከሱ በኋላ ደግሞ ምን ያስፈልጋል? people, society ያስፈልገናል። The third is, ሶስተኛው ምንድነው? What is the third criteria? Yes?
The constitution.
Having a constitution. No constitution.
Government.
Yeah, government is, አሁን ብሩክ እንዳለው, government is responsible to legislate laws, regulations, procedures, and so on. Government is important. Okay? What is the role of government? It is enormous. የገቨርንመንት ስራው ምንድነው? በጣም ብዙ ነው። ኮንስቲቱሽን ህግ ማርቀቅ፣ ህጉን ኢምፕሊመንት ማድረግ፣ having three bodies, the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary bodies. Okay? Generally speaking, administering all resources is the responsibility of government. የመንግስት ስራው ምንድነው? በሀገሪቱ ውስጥ ያሉትን ሪሶርስ በሙሉ ማኔጅ ማድረግ። Generally speaking, keeping or maintaining peace and security is the responsibility of government. Because there is sovereignty, because there is independency, because there is population, because there is resource, conflict might be mandatory. እዚህ ጋር ሀብት አለ ንብረት አለ ስለዚህ ጠብ ሊያጋጥም ይችላል the probability is very very high for the occurrence of problem for the occurrence of conflict so all these conflicts must be managed all resources must be administered therefore responsible must be there and the government ምንድነው የሚባለው it is the head of the state አይደል it is the head ራስ ነው አይደል it is our mind that regulates all of our activities right አእምሮአችን ሊቆላታችን ነው አይደል ሰውነታችንን ሙሉ እንቅስቃሴ ሙሉ ስራ የሚቆጣጠረው likewise ልክ እንደዛ government is responsible to manage all the important decisions of the country so the third important element to have state is government what is the fourth one
A rule of law.
A rule of law. You know, Binyam, all this, the rule of law, supremacy of the constitution, and so on, and so on. All these things must be managed by the previously mentioned point. That is government. Government ባልኖላይ አሁን የጠቀስናቸው ነገሮች በሙሉ manage ይደረጋሉ. Government is responsible to maintain the rule of law, the supremacy of the constitution, and so on and so on. So there is another fourth basic element. It is sovereignty. Okay? It is sovereignty, independence. Sovereignty is important so as to have an international recognition. ይሄ sovereignty ሉዓላዊነት የሚባለው ነው በአማርኛ አይደለ? This means a state must, okay, affirm that they are independent and they can run their own resource. They can organize their own resource by their own means. Independent ያልሆነ state አይባልም. Look, for example, what Dabub Sudan has passed through so as to gain the name or the status of country. And the state recognized in the direct Dabub Sudan has traveled a lot of distances. Yeah? And one of the requests that creates so many clash or even war was the question of sovereignty. ከሱዳን ጋራ ትልቅ ጥያቄ ውስጥ ከቷት የነበረው የሶቨreignty ጉዳይ ነው የኢንዲፔንደንስ ጉዳይ ነው and when Eritrea was also claiming the right of having a statusship ይባላል by the way state የማግኘት ጥያቄ and Eritrea was also claiming that some borders were its own and now you remember that it is in our history that Ethiopia war was one of the biggest war that Ethiopia has fought with its immediate or neighboring state ኤርትራ የሀገርነት ጥያቄ በመጠየቅበት ጊዜ የመጀመሪያው ትልቅ ጥያቄ የነበረው it is border it is sovereignty so sovereignty is very very important because states should get recognition ማለት እውቅና ማለት ነው እንደ ሀገር እውቅና ለማግኘት sovereignty or independency is important if the state is not independent then having the statusship is impossible quite impossible therefore bear in mind that these four things are important and mandatory in order to have a state so let's just wind up it together now ለማጠቃለል እንሞክር ያየናቸው ነገሮች nationalism is just an internal feeling it is just the feeling that one can get a heartbeat when they have had some affiliation with the national flag with the national anthem with the land or with the song and so on and nation and the states are usually using interchangeably but there has some slight difference but the states are countries which has already fulfilled the four criteria that I have mentioned earlier አሁን እንደዚህ ተነጋገርነው in order to have international relationship states must be formed ዓለም አቀፋዊ ወይም ሀገር አቀፋዊ ግንኙነት ሀገሮች እንዲኖራቸው አገሮች መጀመሪያ መኖር አለባቸው። So how a state is formed? A state can be formed if they have fulfilled what I have told you earlier. ቅድም የነገርኳችሁን አራት ኢምፖርታንት ነገሮች አገሮች ካሟሉ they can get the status of the state. And once the state is created, then it is up to the state to be involved in international relationship for its own sake. አንድ ሀገር እንደ ሀገር ፎርም ከተደረገ በኋላ ዓለም አቀፋዊ ግንኙነቶችን መመስረት የሀገሪቱ ፋንታ ይሆናል ማለት ነው። For this reason, embassies are created, ambassadors are appointed. Okay? ይሄንን ኢንተርናሽናል ሪሌሽንሺፕ የሀገሮችን ግንኙነት ለማቀላጠፍ embassies are the most important office. ኤምባሲዎች ይከፈታሉ በየሀገሩ ያ ambassadors are appointed, ambassadors ይሾማሉ. Foreign ministers are also assigned so as to facilitate this international relationship. So such kinds of offices are opened intentionally to speed up, to accelerate the relationship created among states. በሀገሮች መካከል የሚፈጠረውን ግንኙነት ለማቀላጠፍ ለማሟላት ሲባል እነዚያን የጠቀስኩላችሁ ኦፊሶች በየሀገሩ ይከፈታሉ ማለት ነው። Because recently Ethiopia and Eritrea become peaceful states, the first motion, the first initiation was to open up embassy and to appoint ambassadors. Yeah, ታስታውሳላችሁ ኢትዮጵያና ኤርትራ ጥሩ ግንኙነት መስርተናል ብለው ዲክሌር ካረጉ በኋላ ለዓለም ምንድነው መጀመሪያ ላይ ያደረጉት? So let me summarize what we have discussed today. ዛሬ የተነጋገረውን summarize ለማድረግ ያክል international relationship or having an international alliance is a common phenomenon these days. Without having international relationship, countries having an isolated kind of life is not anymore meaningful. Some years ago, states are just locked their land for good, but currently it is not something an advisable method to have a life. Even because of this pandemic, states become locking all of their doors. International airports were also locked, and we have seen what kind of economic shock states are observing. Yeah, በዚህ ሰዓት በጣም ብዙ ሀገሮች ኢኮኖሚካሊ ተጎድተዋል። It is reasonably because all international relationships are banned because of the pandemic. በበሽታው ምክንያት ሀገሮች በሮቻቸውን በሙሉ ስለዘጉ there is no international relationship. Human movement, people movement are strictly forbidden. For this reason, many states become out of the game. Their economy, their political relationship, their societal relationship will become highly affected. It is not okay. It is not for even very, very wealthy states to close all of their doors. Having an open-minded, having open door is recently mandatory strategy for economic prosperity, for social well-being, for cultural variation. Tourism is said to be one of the backbone for many, many states. Tourism, የሀገሮች ኢኮኖሚ ነው these days. For example, if you see Egypt, if you see Uganda, if you see some countries that has beaches, are their economy basis on the movement of people. And when these kinds of international relationships are interrupted, then their economy is going to be problematic. Economy actually ችግር ይፈጠራል ማለት let alone at national level, but at individual level, life is extremely difficult alone. If we are living with our parents, with colleagues, if you are working with people, then your health, not only your health, but your psychological makeup is highly advised by medical experts to be good. if you are business students probably የንግድ ተማሪዎች ደግሞ ከሆናችሁ ምናልባት if you are business students the most successful businesses are businesses that are working with people በጣም በአለም ላይ ትልልቅ ቢዝነሶች የሚባሉት ትልልቅ ንግዶች ለብቻ የተከፈቱ ሳይሆን በጋራ የተከፈቱ ካምፓኒዎች ናቸው companies that are working with partners organizations that are working with people are said to be the most successful organizations therefore having an international relationship is not that we put into question ጥያቄ ውስጥ የምናስገባው ለይሁን አይሁን ይኖር አይኖር ብለን የምንጠይቀው ጥያቄ አይደለም ማለት it is mandatory for mutual interest it is important for economic prosperity for social well-being and also for political alliance if states are interrelated then the probability for the occurrence of war and turmoil is going to be lesser if countries are friends if they are economically intermingled okay አገሮች ኢኮኖሚካሊ ከተሳሰሩ አገሮች ባህል ለባህል ከተሳሰሩ ግልጽ ነው አገሮች በተለያየ ጥቅማ ጥቅም የሚገናኙ ከሆነ the probability the occurrence of conflict the occurrence of war is lesser ስለዚህ this international relationship is not for economic and other interests but so as to keep the world peace and security peace and order then it is quite important what United Nations or the so-called League of Nations few years ago okay if you have noticed history at the end of the First World War League of Nations happened as a peacemaker organization yeah League of Nations emerged as a peacemaker organization so as to prevent the world from similar war from similar turmoil and League of Nations was not also successful as a result the Second World War was broke out and at the end of the Second World War so as to prevent the world from the Third World War then United Nations emerged as a similar organization so what United Nations tries to do is just to create international relationship among world states ይሄ ዩናይትድ ኔሽን ያልኳቸው ኦርጋናይዜሽን የሚፈጥረው ነገር ምንድነው የሚሰራው ነገር ምንድነው ዓለም ድጋሚ ሶስተኛውን የዓለም ጦርነት እንዳታይ አይደል አገሮች ድጋሚ ቡድን ሰርተው በግራና በቀኝ ሆነው ወደ ውጊያ ውስጥ እንዳይገቡ አገሮች እንኳንስ ለጦርነት እንዲተባበሩ ሳይሆን ለመልካም ነገር እንዲተባበሩ they just try to create a relationship among the states that is the whole function of United Nations it is just to facilitate international relationships it is just to speed up the economic dependency among countries therefore today's discussion can be summed up የዛሬው ዲስከሽናችንን እንደዚህ ብለን sum up ማድረግ እንችላለን international relationship is a legal partnership a legal relationship among the states and the reason okay the reason for having this international relationship is either economic interest or political alliance or social interference and when we meet next time we'll try to see another important point with regard to state formation. Once the state is going to be formed, then what sort of things must be followed would be the discussion point for the next class. And if you have any questions before we depart, you are welcome. Otherwise, this is what I have for today.
ልዩነት መፍጠር ዓላማችን ነው። ዓለም አቀፍ ተወዳዳሪ መሆን አለባችሁ። የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ ጥራትና ደረጃውን የጠበቀ ስልጠና በመስጠት ብቁ ዜጋ እያፈራን ነው። በፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን፣ በበረራ መስተንግዶ፣ በቲኬቲንግና ሪዘርቬሽን፣ በሆቴልና ቱሪዝም ሙያዎች አሰልጥነን ተወዳዳሪ እናደርጎታለን። ኮሌጃችን ካናዳ ከሚገኘው ኢንተርናሽናል ኤር ትራንስፖርት አሶሲዬሽን አያታና ከእንግሊዙ ICM ጋር በመተባበር ዓለም አቀፍ ዕውቅና ያለው ስልጠና እየሰጠ ይገኛል። በፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን፣ በበረራ መስተንግዶ የምንሰጣቸው ስልጠና ከኢትዮጵያ ሲቪል አቪዬሽን ባለስልጣን ሙሉ ዕውቅና አለው። አድራሻ ከጎላጉል ታወር 22 አደባባይ ወደ ሾላ በሚወስደው መንገድ ላይ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ ህልሞን